Well, I would like to start this sharing, thanking the Lord and thanking all of you for giving the time to reflect on our brothers and sisters, immigrants and refugees. The topic that I was asked to reflect on is fixing the immigration system. My God. Our leaders in the administration have not been able to do it in decades. But well, we'll try. Let's try. Always a dialogue brings something new, a new piece that should be contemplated in this dialogue regarding our immigrants. I would like to put a little in context this. Last night, the auxiliary bishop from the Archdiocese and I went to celebrate Mass to our migrants and refugees children and young mothers with children. It was a very, very beautiful moment of communion and to be with them as they continue in this camino. For some of us, that camino is towards Christmas, but for them is to find a home. And we are with them. Also, in the context of this reflection, the Pope said few things today. Well, he always says few things, so that is no news. But precisely about what we are talking here today. He says, everyone should, according to his or her specific gifts, fight to project the fundamental rights of individuals. Each person is therefore called to contribute with courage and determination in the specificity of their role to the respect of the fundamental rights of every person, especially the rights of those who are invisible, or many who are hungry and thirsty, who are naked, sick, or stranger, or imprisoned, who live on the margins of society or are discarded. This need for justice and solidarity has special significance for us Christians because the gospel itself invites us to turn our gaze to the least of our brothers and sisters, to be moved to compassion and to concretely commit ourselves to alleviate their suffering. In the eve of the celebration of La Morenita, seeing the experience yesterday with children and how they are in some way numb without expression. You're talking about teenagers. The experience of San Juan Diego. Se inclinó ante la Virgen, oyó su pensamiento y su palabra, sumamente recreadora, muy ennoblecedora, como que atrae y procura amor. Y le dijo, oye, hijo mío, el más desamparado, digno Juan, ¿a dónde vas? Our Lady expresses herself with such cariño and recognizing in that man a noble man, a man that holds the dignity of a child of God. Well, I am delighted that the Mexican American College is hosting this gathering in association with American Magazine. MAC has played a vital role in the Archdiocese ministry of evangelization and formation for nearly 50 years. Addressing issues of immigration is close to my heart as an immigrant myself. As Archbishop of a local church that extends to the west all the way to the border, and as a fellow citizen committed to defending the dignity and rights of all our fellow human beings. Further, the border bishops of Texas, New Mexico, and our counterparts in Mexico meet twice a year to discuss immigration problems that impact our pastoral ministry. Tex-Mex. We live in a very difficult time in our country. Some elected officials are using migrants and refugees as scapegoats for the nation's social problems. In doing so, they dehumanize our sisters and brothers, subjecting them to harsh, even cruel, and draconian public policies. We can look no farther than to the border, less than 200 miles from here, for examples of this, from family detention, separation, and prosecution, to the militarization of border communities. Our conference of bishops here in Texas also are facing something that just came to my attention, and it is really sad. This morning, we, the bishops, submitted the attached comments to support the work that USCCB and CCUSA have done to oppose the proposal public public charge rule, under which non-citizens who are in the country legally could still be denied a visa or a green card if they earn less than a comfortable middle-class salary, suffer from a medical condition, or have financial liabilities, among many other disqualifiers. So tremendous challenges. Is just one after another way that the people who made decisions for us and for people, vulnerable migrants, find ways to discard, to build an elite of comfort and unjust way to dealing with the issues of our time. Less people involved. This rhetoric and these policies are creating an atmosphere of hate which divide us as nation and sadly as church. It is a time when people of goodwill, those of us here, must stand up for our brothers and sisters who are fleeing violence and threats of death in their home countries. We must continue to defend their dignity and right to seek a better life for themselves and their families. How do we do this? Pope Francis gives us a powerful example. He's constantly going to the margins to welcome the stranger. His first trip as Pope, we know, was to the small island of Lampedusa in the Mediterranean. He could have chosen anywhere in the world for this first trip, but instead chose to go to visit the most vulnerable refugees. He spoke of the globalization of indifference, about the plight of migrants and refugees globally, saying they are not pawns on the chessboard of humanity. At the Mass for Migrants last July, Pope Francis said, before the challenges of contemporary movements of migration, the only reasonable response is one of solidarity and mercy. Like the Holy Father, we also must stand in solidarity with migrants and refugees by accompanying them, sharing the journey with them. We share this journey when we defend them in the public square and ensure that their due process rights are protected. Due process. We do this by creating programs through many organizations like Catholic Charities, Catholic Relief Services, with other Catholic agencies in their home countries to help them to stay there to live in dignity and safety. Caritas has done a tremendous work on the other side of the border, or borders. And we do this through the advancements of comprehensive immigration reform, which could help undocumented immigrants and their families come out of the shadows and become visible contributors to the building up of our nation. In answering to fixing the immigration system, number one, well, the overall first, a Catholic immigration plan. What does a Catholic immigration wish list look like? On what basis would Catholics advance it? Our response is based on Catholic social teaching, which in turn is based on scriptures, the Bible. Allow me to begin with the U.S. and Mexican Bishop's pastoral statement, strangers no longer, together on the journey of hope, released in 2003, which highlights principles from immigration reform based on Catholic social teaching. From this statement and other Catholic sources, including the teachings of Pope Francis, a robust immigration agenda emerges which will reform this system in a fair and humane way. Number one, a path to citizenship for the undocumented in the United States. Of course, this should be the central tenet of our immigration reform, as it will bring a large hidden population out of the shadows. As the U.S. bishops had pointed out, a path to citizenship would keep families together, enable immigrants to fully integrate into society, and be consistent with national security. This path to citizenship should be fair and achievable within a reasonable time period. As these broad-based efforts may take time, Congress must move expeditiously to prove legal status to DACA and temporary protected status recipients. While it is obviously the most important aspect of any solution, a path to citizenship would also be the most controversial. But it is critical to reforming the system, and it will ensure that everyone on the right side of the law before the rules change. A majority of the U.S. public supports such a solution, recognizing that the undocumented immigrants can pay their debt and become fully contributing members of our society. Number two, reform of the legal immigration system. Contrary to the current federal administration's view, the Catholic approach to improving the legal immigration system will be to increase its efficiencies and as well as an additional legal avenues for low-skilled workers to migrate legally, not through a dangerous trek in the desert. The first goal will be the elimination of wait times for family reunification permanent visas, green cards, which in some cases can take decades. Removing the cap on green cards for immediate family members of legal permanent residents and placing them in the U.S. citizen category, which has no cap and about a 6 months waiting time, would be a good start. It would also open up slots for other family categories, decreasing wait times overall. Many of you involved in this, you know how time plays a very important role and in favor of destroying, damaging the human person, or building up the families, or destroying families, as I saw yesterday. How many families are separated. They were babies, 1 month old. And if they had been walking for months, that shows clearly how our system is broken and how unjust, unfair, and evil it is. On the labor side, there are only 5,000 green cards in the current system for low-skilled workers, despite the demand for immigrant workers in the service, construction, agriculture, industries. These numbers must be increased. And as a stranger no longer advocates a visa program that protects the rights of immigrant workers and gives them a chance to earn permanent residency, would help fill that void. Presently, the needs of the low-skilled labor market generally are being met by undocumented workers who are sadly vulnerable to abuse and exploitation. We just heard 2 days ago, and was on our papers here in San Antonio, about a woman, well, not woman, a minor, who every day, because our broken system, is abused sexually 15 times, a minor, because of human trafficking. The current administration policies eliminate family categories and replace part of the employment-based system with a point system skewed towards wealthy and highly skilled immigrants. With the nation's workforce aging, baby boomers retiring, and population replacement level at an all-time low, the merit-based approach will leave the U.S. economy with severe workers shortages in the decades ahead. The U.S. economy, the largest in the world, requires workers of all skill levels, not just the well-educated. A merit system could complement the current system, but should not replace it. Thirdly, strengthen the U.S. asylum system. We have seen recent attempts to deny asylum seekers the opportunity to present their claims in the United States. We're talking about international law and the rights of every human person to live someplace in the planet. That is very sad and is inhumane. A recent proclamation by the President, which has since been struck down by a U.S. court, will force asylum seekers to wait in line at ports of entry, which will take months or years. Another possible proposal will keep them in Mexico until their hearings, which in some cases could take not only a year, but years. Delaying justice is denying it. Instead of reducing protection for asylum seekers, the Catholic position will ensure that all asylum seekers are granted due process protections consistent with international law. This will require more resources for immigration courts, which currently have large backlogs, along with providing legal representation for asylum seekers, especially children. This would make the court system more efficient and ensure that asylum seekers are given their day in court. The use of expedited removal should be extremely limited, except for those who legitimately threaten national security. Fourth, immigration enforcement. Catholic teaching recognizes the right of sovereign nations to control their border and enforce the law. From the perspective of Catholic teaching, the question is how such enforcement is conducted. The Catholic Church is not against the enforcement of the law properly formed as long as it is applied fairly and humanly. Human rights and dignity should be paramount in the enforcement of immigration law, a principle that is often discarded by current immigration policies and their implementation. Due process protections, the elimination of unnecessary detention, and access to legal counsel are essential elements of a just system. The administration's principles now focus on increasing resources for deportation of immigrants, with a demand for 10,000 more enforcement agents, 5,000 additional Border Patrol agents, and additional immigration judges to conduct deportation hearings at the border. Combined with the 2017 presidential executive order, which makes all undocumented immigrants a priority for enforcement, this represents a formula for the mass deportation of immigrants who have lived in the United States for years and even decades, and have equity in their communities, exactly the same people who would benefit from a path to citizenship. In fact, we have seen a sharp increase in the arrests of non-criminal immigrants in the past 2 years. The Catholic position is, first, to bring those who are not a threat out of the shadows to register with the government, ensure they are not a threat, and place them on a path to citizenship. But making them known to the government, law enforcement could then focus on true criminal threats. Additionally, the policy of mandatory detention must be addressed. What kind of a nation are we if we are locking up women and children who are not a threat? Here in the Archdiocese are two of the biggest family detention centers in Karan City and Delhi. Instead of keeping families in these centers, we should insist on alternatives to detention, in which groups such as Catholic Charities and other initiatives can provide case management to families and help them to prepare for their asylum hearings. This is more humane and, yes, much less costly, and goes more along with the gospel. Fifth, lastly, border security and the need to address root causes of flight. The president's focus on the construction of several billion-dollar wall across the 2,000-mile southern border, again, has focused attention on border security, despite the fact that border apprehensions are at an all-time low. Also, a study from the Center for Migration Studies found that from 2010 and 2000 through 2014, visa overstays exceeded the number of border apprehensions. Thus, as many have argued, a border wall is both unnecessary and very expensive, and doesn't indicate in any way that the human person is considered in either side of the border. A wall also will not stop migrants from trying to enter the country to find a better life, as the factors driving them to leave their home countries remain stronger than any barriers erected to stop them. As such, the Church's response to a border wall, simply put, always has been to address the push factors driving people to take dangerous journeys to reach the United States. By our addressing endemic poverty and violence in the sending countries, people could and will remain at home to support their families in peace and security. The Church's answer to a border wall is sustainable economic development in developing countries. Since this is a long-term solution, which will require global cooperation and commitment, it is not considered politically realistic by many in Washington. Nevertheless, it is possible. As the Mexican economy has improved, for example, the number of workers from Mexico crossing the border, according to a CMS study, has decreased by 11% over the past 5 years. So as a conclusion, moving forward, the task for Catholic advocates is to make their voices heard in a way that creates political leverage for an agreement that provides a fair path to citizenship for the undocumented and reforms other aspects of our immigration system in a humane manner. This, of course, will not be easy, but it must remain focused on this vision. The Catholic community should not shirk from the principles included in Strangers No Longer, which outline just and humane reforms to the system, regardless of the political climate. However, as always, we must live our faith in solidarity with the migrant and refugee, who is only trying to survive and possesses gifts to share with us. We must also speak out against all forms of xenophobia and discrimination, both in the public square and with our neighbors. The U.S. Bishop's recent statement on racism strongly opposes xenophobic attitudes and harsh rhetoric concerning migrants. Racism is not only a sin, it is evil. Let us be illuminated with this text from the Nical Mopoa, that encounter of San Juan Diego and Our Lady of Guadalupe. Remember, the Blessed Mother told him, Oye, hijo mío, el más desamparado, digno Juan, ¿a dónde vas? Y él respondió, Dueña y reina mía, tengo que llegar a tu casa de México, Tlatelolco, a seguir las cosas divinas que nos dan nuestros sacerdotes, que son imágenes de nuestro Señor. Entonces ella le platicó y le descubrió su preciosa voluntad. Le dijo, sabe y ten seguro en tu corazón, hijo mío, el más desamparado, que yo soy la siempre Virgen Santa María, Madre de el Dios de gran verdad, de aquel por quien vivimos, del creador de las personas, del dueño de lo que está cerca y junto, el Señor del cielo y de la tierra. And just paying attention to the words of welcoming of the Blessed Mother. Quiero mucho y deseo vivamente que en este lugar me levante mi ermita. En ella mostraré y daré a las gentes todo mi amor, mi compasión, mi ayuda y mi defensa. Porque yo soy la Madre misericordiosa de ti y de todas las naciones que viven en esta tierra. Que me amen, que me hablen, que me busquen y en mí confíen. Allí he de oír sus lamentos y remediar y curar todas sus miserias, penas y dolores. The attitude of the Blessed Mother, Our Lady of Guadalupe, in the relationship with San Juan Diego, can teach us a lot about this service that we want to do, to excel in, of protecting our immigrant community and our refugees. As Catholics, we cannot recoil from the fear of being peddled by some in the political world. Everyone has God-given dignity, which must be honored, as the Blessed Mother honored San Juan Diego, and in him, every child of God. Every person is created in the image and likeness of God, and the Lord calls upon us to stand by our brothers and sisters and to act on their behalf, to welcome the stranger and do unto others as we would want them to do to us. Let us apply the gospel message faithfully and boldly to the human problem of immigration. Thank you.